the one they overlooked, a folktale of quiet greatness. When the harmattan winds first began to taste like dry clay on the tongue, the village of Kiriath by the stream was already forgetting one boy's name. Not because he had done anything wicked, not because he was lazy. He was forgotten for the oldest reason in the world. There were too many mouths to count, too many hands to notice, and too many important people to praise. His name was Yadin. He was the youngest son of a man with fields and olive trees, the kind of man people greeted with extra respect in the market because his sandals stayed clean. The village knew his older brothers, tall, loud, shoulders like carved stone, boys who lifted grain sacks as if they were feathers. They knew the way those brothers laughed in the square and argued about war and taxes like they had already become elders. But Yadin? Yadin belonged to the hills, not the hills that held vineyards and wells, the hills that held thorns, the hills where wolves watched with quiet eyes, the hills that carried the smell of goat and dust and loneliness. He was the shepherd boy, the one you handed your problems to because he had nowhere else to go. His father called him the last one. His brothers called him the small one. His mother, when she was alive, had called him my song. But she had been gone for years, buried on the edge of the fields under a stone that always looked slightly tilted, like it was tired of standing. Yadin did not complain. In a house full of voices, the quiet boy learns quickly that words are expensive. He learned the language of sheep instead, the tremble that meant fear, the stubborn pause that meant illness, the restless pacing that meant wolves were near. And he learned something else too, the language of his own hands. Every morning before sunrise, he sharpened his small blade against a stone until it sang. He checked the leather straps of his sling, not once, not twice, but again and again, as though his life depended on it, because sometimes it did. He mended tears in the sheepfold with patient knots. He packed herbs for cuts. He counted the flock the way some men counted coins. His brothers teased him for it. "What will your careful knot save you from?" one brother would say, laughing. "A sheep that refuses to die." "Maybe," Yadin would answer softly. They thought he was joking, but Yadin wasn't careful because he wanted applause. He was careful because the hills didn't clap for anyone. The hills only punished the careless. It was on one of those ordinary days, one of those days that later become the pages people read with wide eyes, that the first twist began to unfold. It started with a missing lamb. The flock was returning in the late afternoon, the sun low and gold like poured honey, when Yadin noticed one lamb absent. Not two, not five. One, a little white ewe lamb born weak, always walking near the back, as if she feared her own shadow. Other shepherds in nearby fields called out, "Leave it! It's only one. The night is quick." But Yadin did not shrug. He counted again, then again. His fingers moved over numbers like prayer beads. One missing. He looked at the sky, already darkening, then at the flock, safe inside the fold, crowded and noisy. And then he looked at himself. Because sometimes a person stands between convenience and conviction, between what is easy and what is right. And in that narrow space, character is revealed. Yadin grabbed his staff, adjusted the strap of his sling, and climbed back into the hills alone. The air cooled fast. Insects rose in a whispering chorus. Thorns snagged his robe. A loose stone slid beneath his foot and clattered down a slope, loud enough to make his heart jump. He called softly, "Little cloud, little cloud." That was what he named her. Little Cloud, because she was white, because she looked like softness in a hard world. At first, there was nothing. Then, faint, so faint it almost sounded like wind, came a bleat. Yadin froze, held his breath. Another bleat, clearer now. He followed it, stepping carefully, moving like the quiet boy the village never noticed. And then he saw her, stuck between rocks, legs twisted, failing to pull free. Her eyes were wide and glossy with fear. Nearby, the grass was flattened in a wide circle, as if something had already inspected her, already considered her. Yadin's stomach sank. That circle in the grass was not made by wind. He looked up and saw, not far away, a pair of eyes in the dark. A wolf, not a large one, not a famous one. But wolves do not need fame to kill. They only need hunger. The wolf waited, the way patient things wait. Yadin swallowed. The lamb bleated again, too loud. The wolf's ears lifted. In that moment, Yadin's mind became calm in a way that scared him. Not because he was brave like a soldier, but because he had practiced small, faithful things so often that his hands already knew what to do. He loosened his sling, selected a smooth stone, rubbed it once between, his fingers like greeting it. He swung the sling steadily, the leather humming in a tight circle. His breath matched the rhythm. His eyes locked on the wolf's head. The wolf took a step forward, then another. Yadin released. The stone cut through the air with a sharp final sound and struck the wolf above the eye. The wolf yelped, shocked more than wounded, and fled into the brush. Yadin's knees almost collapsed with relief, but he didn't celebrate. He freed the lamb gently, pressing his forehead to hers. Little Cloud, he whispered, you're safe. He carried her back, heart pounding like a drum, and placed her inside the fold. The older shepherd stared as if he had done something foolish and holy at the same time. You went back, one muttered, for one lamb. Yadin nodded. It was mine to watch. He thought the story ended there. He didn't know someone had been watching. Not a neighbor, not an elder, a stranger. A few mornings later, a traveler came into Kiriath by the stream. He was older, hair silver like dawn mist, eyes sharp enough to read secrets. He carried no crown, no banner, no noisy entourage, only a staff and a small leather satchel at his side. He asked, "Where is the house of Joram, son of Hillel?" Everyone pointed quickly. When important things arrive, villages become eager. The traveler entered Joram's house and greeted them with a calm that made the room feel smaller. He did not eat first. He did not waste time. "Gather your sons," he said. "All of them?" Joram blinked. "All?" "All." The older sons assembled quickly, smoothing their tunics, lifting their chins, ready to be admired. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Strong sons, the kind people imagine leading. The traveler walked down the line slowly, studying each face, each posture. Then, one by one, he shook his head. Not him either. Not this one, not that one. The air thickened. Pride tightened like rope. Joram's fingers twitched. Finally, Joram cleared his throat. "Sir, these are my sons." The traveler's eyes stayed steady. "Are these all your sons?" Joram hesitated, because even in good homes, the overlooked can become invisible. "Well," he admitted, "there is the last one, the shepherd." The traveler's gaze sharpened. "Bring him!" A servant ran to the hills. Minutes passed. The traveler did not sit, as if time owed him obedience. At last, the door opened and Yadin stepped in. He smelled like sheep and sun. His hair was wind-tangled. His hands bore small scrapes. He looked around, unsure why the room felt like thunder before rain. His brothers stared at him like he had dragged hill dust across their pride. The traveler approached Yadin and studied him, quiet, careful, like a man listening for a note others cannot hear. "What is your name?" he asked. "Yadin," he said softly. The traveler nodded, then did something that seemed ordinary, almost unimpressive. So unimpressive that years later, people would struggle to explain why it mattered. He reached into his satchel and pulled out a small strip of cloth, plain, undyed, the color of new linen. At the end of it was tied a thin cord threaded with a tiny carved token, an ashwood bead, smooth and dark, shaped like a seed. He held it out to Yadin. "Come closer," he said. Yadin stepped forward. The traveler looped the strip gently around Yadin's wrist and tied it with a simple knot. 2 turns, 1 pull, secure, humble, practical. Then he pressed his thumb briefly over the ashwood bead, as if setting it in place, and said in a low voice that didn't travel far, "You have been marked for a road you cannot yet see, not because you are the loudest, not because you are the tallest, because you have been faithful where no one claps." A hush fell in the room. Joram's wife covered her mouth. The brothers shifted, uncomfortable. The traveler straightened and spoke to the whole house. "No one here is indispensable," he said, "and no one here is a write-off. The Most High does not measure by height, by swagger, or by the shine of a man's name. What people ignore, heaven often trains." The older brothers' faces tightened. Yadin stared at the small ashwood bead on his wrist. It looked like nothing, like a child's trinket, like a thing that could be forgotten. But his skin tingled where the traveler's thumb had pressed it, and his heart, his quiet heart, felt like a door had opened somewhere inside. Then the traveler left as suddenly as he came, taking his mystery with him like a wind that refuses to be held. And you might expect everything to change right then, but purpose is not always loud. Sometimes it grows in silence. Yadin returned to the hills the same day. The sheep still needed watching, the thorns still scratched, the sun still rose and set without asking who wore an ashwood bead. Nothing changed in the routine, except Yadin's heart. Now he carried a secret, and secrets are heavy. At night, under the open sky, he stared at his wrist until the stars blurred. He wondered what that mark meant. He felt a weight he could not name, like a promise and a warning tangled together. And then the hills tested him again. A bear came one night, drawn by the scent of wool. The sheep scattered like panicked clouds. The bear was enormous, furious, hungry. Other shepherds would have run and accepted loss as normal. But Yadin stepped between the bear and the flock, not because he believed himself special, because the flock was his responsibility. He tried fire first, swinging a flaming branch. The bear swatted it aside. Then he reached for what he knew, what he had practiced, what he had done consistently when nobody was watching. He used his sling. A stone struck the bear's snout. The bear bellowed. Another stone followed, sharp and fast. The bear staggered, stunned that something small could sting so deep. Yadin shouted and advanced with his staff, driving the beast back step by step until it disappeared into the dark. When dawn came, Yadin sat on a rock shaking, laughing softly, not because it was funny, but because he was alive, and he understood a truth that sounds simple until life proves it. The things you do faithfully in secret become the strength you borrow in public. Whatever you find doing, do it well, do it consistently, even if it looks small. Weeks later, trouble rolled into the land like thunder without rain. Not a rumor, not a story from passing traders. Real trouble. A rival city had raised a champion, a towering fighter wrapped in metal whose voice carried across valleys like a curse. Each day he stepped forward near the border ridge and challenged the king's forces with words that didn't only threaten bodies, they threatened hope. And the king's men, trained for war, began to shrink in spirit. Fear does that. Fear makes strong men feel small. Yadin's older brothers were among those called to serve the king's militia. They left with spears and pride, eager to prove they belonged among men. Joram tried to look brave at the gate, but his eyes were wet. "Bring honor," he said. The brothers nodded and marched away. Days passed, then weeks. News came back like bruises. The army was stalled. The champion mocked them daily. Men were frightened, ashamed to admit it. Joram grew restless. He paced. He snapped at servants. He stared too long at the road. One morning, a caravan from the border camps arrived in the village. Tired donkeys, dust-covered traders, and a few soldiers escorting them. They brought letters, small bundles, news spoken in low voices. Joram bought grain and dried figs from the caravan, but his hands were shaking. "What of my sons?" he demanded the moment he saw a soldier with the king's seal. The soldier shrugged. "They live, but they are spirits. This champion breaks men with his mouth." Joram's jaw tightened. He looked toward the hills as if the hills could answer him. Then he called for Yadin. When Yadin entered, Joram set a small task before him, not glamorous, not heroic, just necessary. "Tomorrow," his father said, "the border camp sends a wagon back for supplies. You will go with it, not to fight, not to show yourself, to help deliver provisions, to count what is given, to ensure nothing is stolen on the road. Men are hungry, and hungry men become dishonest." Yadin nodded. "Yes, father." His brothers had gone to the war with spears. Yadin went to the war with lists. That is how life is sometimes. Purpose wears ordinary clothes. At dawn, Yadin joined the supply wagon. He walked beside it with a staff in one hand and a ledger tied in cloth in the other. He counted sacks of grain as they loaded them. He checked seals on jars of oil. He argued politely with a merchant who tried to short the measure. He ensured the water skins were full. Some men smirked at him. "Look at the shepherd," they muttered, "counting like an old woman in the market." Yadin ignored them, because consistency is often mocked until it saves someone. On the road, thieves did try to strike. A band of desperate men emerged from rocks, hoping to steal food meant for soldiers. The escort panicked, gripping their spears, unsure. Yadin didn't panic. He studied the rocks, the angles, the number of men. He stepped forward and spoke calmly, not with bravado, but with authority. "This wagon feeds men who stand between you and invasion," he said. "If you steal from them, you help the enemy. If you are hungry, come behind us to the village storehouse when we return. We will speak to the elders, but not like this, not with shame on your hands." The thieves hesitated. One sneered. Another lowered his weapon. Then, unexpectedly, one of the thieves recognized Yadin. "Wait," the man said, voice cracking. You're Joram's boy, the one who found my sister's lost goat last season." Yadin nodded, surprised. The thief swallowed. His shoulders drooped. "We are starving," he admitted.
Yadin looked at the wagon, then at the men. He opened the sack and pulled out a portion of dried figs and bread, small, measured, careful enough to hold them for a day, not enough to cripple the supply. "Take this," Yadin said, "and go." And when you are ready to live honestly, come to the elders. Hunger is not a crime, but stealing will chain your future. The thieves backed away, stunned, and vanished into the hills. The soldiers stared at Yadin, speechless. That day, Yadin learned another truth. Strength is not only in fists and weapons. Sometimes the strongest thing is a steady heart and a wise word. When the wagon finally reached the border camp, the air smelled of sweat and iron. Men moved like they were carrying invisible weight. Conversations were quieter than they should have been. Yadin delivered supplies, checked inventories, handed over seals, did the work he came for. Small work, faithful work. Then he heard it, a roar, a voice like thunder in a dry canyon. The champion stepped forward at the ridge, armor gleaming, weapon huge, and he shouted insults that seemed to push the air itself backward. Men flinched. Some looked away. Some gripped their spears like children gripping toys. No one stepped out. Yadin stood still, listening, and something lit inside him in indignation, a flame not aimed at people, but at the heaviness that fear was pouring into their souls. He turned to a nearby soldier. Why does no one answer him? The soldier's jaw tightened. Because whoever answers him dies. Yadin stared at the giant again. He remembered wolves in the dark, a bear's breath hot in his face. The ashwood bead on his wrist, quiet, unglamorous but real. He thought about all the times he had done the same small thing faithfully, repeatedly when nobody watched. And he realized this moment was not asking for someone famous. It was asking for someone prepared. So he said softly at first, then louder, "Then I will answer him." The soldier laughed in disbelief, then stopped laughing when he saw Yadin's eyes. Word spread quickly, not the kind of announcement made with trumpets. The kind carried by whispers. A boy with a supply wagon wants to stand. A shepherd with an ashwood bead says he will face the champion. Is this mockery? Yadin's brothers heard and rushed toward him, their faces tight with fear and anger. "What are you doing?" one hissed, grabbing his shoulder. "You came here to count sacks. Go back to the wagon. Don't disgrace us." Yadin met his brother's eyes and spoke with a steadiness that surprised even him. "If courage is disgrace," he said, "then we have all been living too carefully." His brother's mouth opened, then closed, unable to answer. The camp commanders dragged Yadin before the king's tent, half irritated, half curious. The king had not slept well in weeks. His shoulders looked like they carried stone. His eyes were sharp with frustration and fear he refused to name. He stared at Yadin. "This is who they brought me." Yadin bowed. "My lord, they say you want to face the champion." "Yes." The king's laugh was short and bitter. "You are only a boy. He has been trained for war since youth." Yadin nodded. "I know." "Then why?" Yadin lifted his wrist slightly, not to show off, but because it reminded him of something deeper. "Because danger does not only meet soldiers," he said. "It meets shepherds too. Lions take sheep, bears take sheep, wolves take sheep. And I have learned if you run from every large thing, you become small inside." The advisors scoffed. The guards exchanged looks. The king studied him, and in that study there was a war of its own. Finally, the king said, "Take armor then. If you insist on dying, at least die covered." They strapped heavy gear onto Yadin. The metal pressed his ribs, the helmet slid over his eyes, the sword felt like holding a plow. He took one step and nearly stumbled. He shook his head. "I can't fight in this," he said. "I haven't practiced with it. My lord, I will use what I know, what I have done faithfully, what I have practiced consistently." Some laughed, but the king, tired, desperate, waved his hand. "Then go," he said, as though sending him away would end the problem. Yadin walked to a stream and chose stones. Not random stones, smooth stones, balanced stones. Stones his fingers recognized as if they had names. He chose 5. Then he stepped out toward the ridge where the champion waited. The champion saw him and laughed so loudly birds scattered. "What is this?" the giant boomed. "Did you send me a child? Did you run out of men?" Yadin stopped at a safe distance. He lifted his voice not with panic, not with swagger. With clarity. You come with metal and threats, he said, but I come with trust in the living God who defends the helpless. The champion's face twisted. He raised his weapon. I will feed you to the birds. The champion's face twisted. He raised his weapon. I will feed you to the birds. Yadin's heart thudded. Yadin's heart thudded. Then the twist no one expected arrived not from heaven as lightning, but from the careful eyes of a shepherd. As the champion shifted his stance, laughing, Yadin noticed something. The champion's left foot dragged slightly, just a little. A weakness hidden beneath arrogance. A pattern most soldiers missed because they were busy being afraid. But shepherds watch movement for a living. Shepherds learn the language of bodies. Yadin swung his sling. The leather hummed. The stone circled. The air seemed to tighten. He released. The stone struck where helmet met skin, at the vulnerable seam near the temple. For a heartbeat, everything froze. Then the champion staggered. Then he fell. Like a tree finally admitting it has been cut. The sound of his body hitting the earth rang across the ridge like a drum. The king's men stood stunned, then erupted, courage returning like rain after drought. They surged forward, shouting, chasing the enemy back as if the fear had been broken in half. Yadin stood over the fallen champion, chest heaving, eyes wide, almost shocked by what his own consistency had produced. And the camp that had mocked him began to chant his name. But applause can be a different kind of test, because the greatest battles aren't always the ones in open fields. Sometimes the real fight begins after the victory, when pride, jealousy, and suspicion start to circle like wolves. Yadin returned to the camp and men pressed around him, slapping his back, calling him brave, calling him chosen, calling him the answer. His brothers pushed through the crowd, faces stiff with something sour. One grabbed his shoulder too hard. So, now you are famous, he said, smiling with his mouth but not his eyes. Now everyone will sing your name. Yadin's joy cooled. He met his brother's gaze. I did what needed doing, he said. His brother leaned close. You did what was not yours to do. Yadin's voice stayed calm. It was everyone's problem. And from that day, the palace door opened to him. The king called him, honored him, placed him among musicians and commanders. Songs began to rise through the streets, songs of the king's victories and the shepherd's courage. At first, Yadin was overwhelmed. The palace smelled like perfume and polished wood. Curtains were dyed with colors that looked like sunsets trapped in cloth. But he remained himself. He woke early, he practiced, he listened, he served. He did small things with excellence even when they seemed beneath him. Because he had learned in the hills, your future is built in your habits. The king began to trust him with assignments small at first, then larger. Yadin succeeded not through arrogance but diligence, steady, consistent, faithful. And that faithfulness became a mirror that made others uncomfortable. The king's own household began to watch him with eyes that measured risk. The songs that praised Yadin began to feel like sharp stones in the ears of those who loved power. And so the twists continued. A spear thrown by mistake during training missed Yadin's head by a hair. Another scraped his shoulder. A warning disguised as accident. Yadin understood. The champion on the ridge had been easier than this envy and suspicion wearing friendly faces. One night, a young Prince Matin pulled Yadin aside, trembling. My father is not himself, he whispered. He fears you. He thinks you will take what is his. I don't know how to stop it. Yadin's heart clenched. I don't want his seat, he said. I didn't ask for this. Matin swallowed. But you're on the path anyway. That night, Yadin prayed the way he used to pray under the open sky. Honest, aching, unpolished. And then he did something hard. He left the palace quietly. Not because he was guilty. Because sometimes doing the right thing means removing yourself from a place that is tempting others into sin. He went into the wilderness. And in the wilderness, he gathered people the world had labeled useless, outcasts, debtors, men with broken names. They came to him not because he was rich, but because he didn't treat anyone as a write-off. He fed them when food was scarce. He guided them when roads were dangerous. He taught them discipline because discipline is the difference between a crowd and a community. He reminded them again and again, no one here is indispensable. Don't make an idol of any man, including me, and no one here is a write-off. If the world threw you away, heaven still knows your name. Years passed. The king grew older, more troubled. His pursuit of Yadin rose and fell like restless waves. Then, one night, in a twist that could only be called providence, the king wandered into a cave alone to rest, unaware that Yadin and his men were hiding deep in its shadows. Yadin's men hissed, eyes wide. "This is your chance," they whispered. "End it. He has hunted you. Finish the story." Yadin stared at the king's back. His heart pounded. This was the moment the world loves. The hero kills the villain and everything becomes simple. But Yadin had been trained by hills, not by applause. He crept forward silently and did not strike. Instead, he reached down and took the ash wood bead off his wrist, the quiet mark, the humble token, and set it near the king's cloak where it could be seen in the morning. Then he withdrew into the darkness. At dawn, when the king rose and saw the small bead near his robe, he froze. He stared at it like it was a message written in thunder. A voice called from the cave's mouth. "My lord." The king turned and saw Yadin at a distance, visible now in the early light. Yadin lifted his empty hands. "I could have ended you," he said, voice steady but tender. "But I did not, because your life is not mine to take. I left you a sign so you would know you were in my hands and mercy held you." The king's face crumpled. For a moment, the suspicion fell away and a weary human being showed through. "You are more righteous than I," the king whispered. "I chased you, and you spared me." The king went away shaken. And Yadin's men, though they didn't understand, began to see that true strength is not only the power to strike, but the power to refuse becoming cruel. In time, war swallowed the king and his household, and the throne became empty like a chair in a silent room. When the news reached Yadin, he sat in the dust and wept. Not out of celebration, not out of relief, but out of grief. His men stared. "Why mourn a man who hunted you?" Yadin wiped his face and said, "Because no one is a write-off, not even the man who feared me. And because bitterness turns the heart into a prison." When the elders of the tribes finally came, they did not come with flattery. They came with humility. "Lead us," they said. "We have seen your faithfulness when you were hidden. We have seen your courage when others shook. We have seen your restraint when you could have taken revenge." Yadin did not rush forward like someone hungry for a crown. He remembered sheep. He remembered thorns. He remembered being the last one. He said, "If I lead, I will lead as a servant." And so the shepherd became ruler not by chasing power, but by practicing faithfulness. He built with the wisdom of the hills. Protect the weak, stay alert, honor the unseen, and never despise small beginnings. He chose helpers not by volume, but by character. He remembered the outcasts because he had lived among them. He remembered the hungry because he had shared food on a dangerous road. And in all his strength, he carried one lesson like a staff in his hand. No one is indispensable, so stay humble. No one is a write-off, so stay kind. Years later, when Yadin was older, he returned to the edge of his father's old fields. He saw a young shepherd boy counting sheep carefully, double-checking knots, tightening straps, doing small things with excellence. The boy's older brothers mocked him near the gate. Yadin's heart tightened. He approached and asked, "Why do you count again?" "You already counted." The boy looked down embarrassed. "Because last season a lamb went missing," he whispered. And I don't want that again. Yadin smiled, a soft smile like sunrise. He said, listen to me. Whatever you find doing, do it well. Do it consistently. Tie the knot right even if no one claps. Practice the skill even if people laugh. Care for the small things, because the small things will introduce you to your future. Then he looked at the older brothers and spoke firmly. And you remember this, no one is indispensable. Pride breaks men faster than war, and no one is a write-off. The person you dismiss today may be the answer you pray for tomorrow. The hills stood quiet, stubborn, eternal, and in that quiet, the lessons settled like seed into soil. If you are in the hills right now, doing work nobody praises, do it well. If you feel overlooked, stay faithful. If you've been treated like the last one, remember, the last one is still counted. Because the day will come when your steady, faithful, consistent hands will meet a moment that demands you. And the moment will recognize you like an old friend. People will call it sudden success, but you will know the truth. It wasn't sudden. It was built stone by stone, knot by knot, day by day by someone the world forgot, but heaven never did.